Boom, hey internets. What are the typical methods of operation for a clothing brand? I go through all of them here and I offer you a fourth one. There's three very traditional ones and I'm gonna talk about the way I do it for my brand Non-Beta. Stick to the end so I can tell you the pros and cons of each and you can figure out which one is best for you. All right, John Phenom, clothing brand mentor, over 20 years, been designing apparel and doing creative direction since the year 2000. That's a long time. So let's break down clinically all of the ways that a clothing brand does its business. What are the different ways you can do production and fulfillment, which is basically how you get the product to your customers. So number one, and this is for maybe bands, people doing merch, or people who are just dipping their toe in the water, there is a pre-order way of getting your designs done. All right, and so that's basically not making the product, creating the hype, having a visual, or maybe you make one sample and you do a photo shoot with that. A lot of times you can make a mock-up digitally and you create hype and give people an order deadline for a pre-order. Number two is the inventory method, which is the most traditional and the tried and true. So every brand I've ever worked for since 2000, all of those brands have an inventory method. So we make the product, we screen print the shirts, and then we get that product into our warehouse and then we deliver from there. Number three, and this is a newer method, is the third-party method. Printify and Printful are the godfathers of this method. Basically, you plug in your Shopify in the back end or whatever e-commerce also might work. I know Shopify is the most common, but you plug in the back end of your Shopify website to one of these third-party providers, and what they will do is get that order and then they will get to work on creating, producing, and then in most cases, they do the fulfillment. So they will send it white label all the way to your customer. So this is the most hands-off method. And number four is the way I'm going to introduce at the end of this video, which is press on demand. Let me go into a little bit more detail and give you the pros and cons of each. Number one, pre-order. That's pretty much a no-brainer. Again, you don't have to put any upfront cost, any kind of resource into it. As long as you have your artwork ready, you could pretty much go with a traditional screen printer if it's t-shirts, or go with a third party and have them produce it and ship it out. But the idea with doing pre-order is that you get the orders first, and in some cases you get that money first because they're committing to the buy. So you finance that production with the money that people are pledging as a pre-order. Now, another way to do it is to take pre-order numbers without taking any money. Again, it gives you a better idea of demand. So if you do a pre-order on 6 different designs, you could see if design number 2 and number 4 were really very popular, so you can have a better guided idea of what to produce if you go number 2 into the inventory method and produce those items with your screen printer or embroiderer and then have it ready on the date you say that they're going to ship out. Again, so pro of this, no upfront cost for you. And then one con though is it's gonna take a long time to get to the customer. And as you know, all customers are going to measure against Amazon, which almost makes it nearly impossible to get that same kind of customer satisfaction. But even you as a consumer, you expect to get your product quickly because of Amazon. Number 2, the inventory method. Again, tried and true. You make the product and then you announce on your website, on your Instagram and social media that it's available now and people can purchase. In a lot of ways in production, this is a guessing game. So a lot of companies that have a track record are gonna be able to understand what kind of numbers and quantities they can sell, but they're still guessing. But a lot of times, this is when companies are fully in demand and fully in stride, so they can know that if they produce 6 shirts or 12 shirts in the one season or the one drop, they can sell a good amount of those tees. So they can go ahead and create them, put them into their warehouse, and get it to the point where they're ready to just pick and ship. So a lot of times if it's t-shirts, they're already in the poly bags, they already have barcodes or SKU numbers on them with the sizing. So all you have to do is figure out what size and what color and then wrap those up and ship those out to your customer. Now in the inventory method, we usually use screen printers and we use overseas to do cut and sew. So some of the pros is your customer doesn't need to wait. So once you announce a drop, it's ready to ship. And number 2, there's no labor for production. right? You send out those orders, get ready, and you say go when the product is in your warehouse. Cons is there's upfront cost, definitely upfront cost in production. Number two, for newer brands, there's risk of unsold product. You don't know if your 6 designs or 12 designs are gonna sell, and your screen printer is gonna have minimums. So to meet those minimums, not everything is going to sell the same, so you don't know where you're gonna take a hit. If you take a hit very badly on all of those designs, you're gonna be sitting on unsold stock. Now, I'm going to insert 2B, which is another method that I didn't say in the beginning because it's very rare. Some people do talk about this or ask about it, but it's if you screen print your own items. So let's say, knowing that t-shirts is going to be a huge category for your brand, which it is for most brands, you decide to purchase screen printing equipment and make the shirts yourself, be your own producer. Now, you can do that. I suggest you don't go the screen printing route, and this comes from someone who owned a high volume screen printing shop for over 3 years. There is a lot to learn in just that one craft. I would highly suggest you keep it outsourced, but I did want to bring it up because some people may have that asset already or find that it's something that they want to do. So that does exist, but I wanted to bring it up to be fully transparent and say that is an option also. Obviously, this has the same benefits, but you get to control the production. You will have no minimums, but there's going to be a huge cost and a huge learning curve in acquiring the production, even if it's a small garage shop, and then also in learning how to do that and buy all of the things you need, from emulsion to the paint, etc., etc. Third one, this is new, 3PL and third party. So Printful or Printify. All you do is plug in the back end, you make pretty pictures or pretty designs, and if they sell, it goes directly to them. They create their product and they send it to your customer. So some obvious pros is you don't have to deal with any upfront cost or any of that at all. You only need to worry about designs. There is no labor whatsoever. The cons is, number one, you're gonna get the smallest margin for that product because they have high rates. I think a t-shirt could be as much as $18, $19 in some of the beginning options of a t-shirt. So that is extremely high versus a screen printer that might charge maybe $8 for the same t-shirt. So a $10 spread is a huge amount of margin that you're going to eat in this scenario. Also, the biggest complaint I've heard from subscribers is quality control. When they test out using one of these third parties, is they can have poor quality and you have no way of policing that, or who do you talk to for that? They're literally running hundreds of thousands of orders at the same time for a ton of different clients who are using this same solution. So there's no way to police that. And then one third thing to go along with that is you don't have control of customer transactions. So customer service, any kind of debacle that might happen there, or if they do complain about it, you might have to get involved in there. And so it's weird. And number 4 is the process I use, which I call press on demand. So this takes a little bit more work, but I feel there's more control and you have more control of your margins, I feel. So what I do is I have acquired some equipment, but not screen printing equipment. I have 2 heat presses. The HPN 6x20, which I do all of my t-shirts and all of my fleece, all of my graphic solutions I'm using with this bad boy, and it is a tank. That and the hat press with the auto open I use for hats, but I also use them for my P&Ls, which stand for printed neck labels. So after purchasing these 2 machines, it really gives me the power of owning a screen printing company through the use of transfers, and if you wanted to, you could also experiment with DTF. So the basis of the clothing company right now is a lot of t-shirts and fleece, just like many other clothing companies. So I will do those designs on transfers, and I like to use Supercolor. So those Supercolor transfers come in, and then I also prep my blanks. So I might purchase 4 blanks, let's say 4 different colors of blanks in all the different sizes. When they come in, I put my neck label on those items and they're ready to go as a non-beta blank for my clothing company. This way I have a virtual stock. I know the palette of the 4 colors that I might use, and I can go crazy on doing a lot of different designs because the designs will come in as transfers, and if they sell, they sell. If they don't, they'll remain on the film, but it will not take up one of my blanks that are ready to go for another design that will get sold in the future. So eventually I'll scale up to use number 2, the inventory method. For cut and sew, I will use number 2, but in the time where I'm building and creating proof of concept, I am going to use number 4, which is press on demand. And let me tell you why with some pros and cons. Number 1, I'm keeping a maximum margin by not wasting any blanks on unsold designs. Number 2, as I alluded to, I can literally put out 5 to 10 designs and really explore those different looks without having the fear of it not selling because it's not committed to the blank. If a design doesn't sell, I simply don't press that design onto the garment. Number 3, it's easy to control production. While there is some work to it, I can teach a 15 or 16-year-old how to do this process, and so I don't have to do all of the physical labor. It's something that's easily outsourceable. Now, some of the cons, and these are real cons, is you're gonna have to buy the equipment, and I would suggest you go with Heat Press Nation. Again, this is not an ad, but it's literally the ones that are in my shop right now at this moment, and so if I would purchase them, I would suggest that you use them. You don't wanna go with the cheapest heat press on the market. You want to go with something with quality, and so you can see my links for the ones I have below. Con number 2 is labor is involved, and I named it as a plus because you can control that production, but it's also a minus because someone has to do that work, and in the end it might be you in the beginning or in the middle, or if someone gets sick, etc. So shirts need to get pressed. So while it is a con, I think it is also a plus because you do control that operation. I hope that was eye-opening to give you an idea of how the process might work, and this might change in the future. No one knew number 3 was gonna be in there with Printful and Printify, and that category keeps getting bigger and better and faster, so you never know. I might do an update on this a year from now. But hope that helps. You got questions, drop them below, or you can email me here and I'll reply to you every single time. See you guys on the next one. Peace.